This is not to say that we support police. We have some wonderful men and women that through my long career in civil rights, we have honored them during Police Week. We will continue to do that. But right now, we got to deal with the issue on hand. This indefensible and senseless shooting of a young man that occurred on April 21st, 2020, when the police responded to a call that saying that a man was possibly trying to commit suicide. Some people talk about training, de-escalation, all kinds of things. But apparently, that didn't take place. And then to top it off, the Greater Houston Coalition for Justice was very instrumental with Senator Whitmire and other legislators in changing the grand jury when it was known as the Picket Pal. I am disappointed. First of all, I'm appreciative of Mayor Turner's that many times we have come to him to ask for different issues, and he has responded greatly. But when we ask for the coalition and other community members to serve in the union contract, we didn't get an answer. So folks, let me tell you, we all have a responsibility to be sensitive, as human as possible, and to try to correct the injustice in this county, city, and state, and everywhere else. The question is, where do you go from here? We go to the federal level. In your hand, you have a letter dated all the way to September 2021 to U.S. Attorney asking him, after the grand jury failed to act accordingly, for a complete investigation on this case under color of law. Yesterday, I spent time on the phone with several congressional elected officials, asking them to assist us in getting the Attorney General's attention. And we want to schedule some meetings for the family and members of the community with the Attorney General. It's time that elected officials, appointed officials, start getting serious about cases like the Nicholas Chavez death. I want to say that the coalition has created a Victims' Rights Committee. That's how we were able and instrumental in the changing of the grand jury when we went to the legislation to plead our case. We played our case with victims that had gone through these trials and tribulations. Today, we have two new members that have joined the coalition, which is Mr. Chavez and Janie Torres. Janie Torres is a civil rights advocate that ever since her brother's death has been very instrumental in making change. I will have just a short, brief statement after the speakers, and I call on Mr. Chavez because many of you wanted to talk to him yesterday when y'all were calling, and you have him here to more or less speak for himself. Mr. Chavez.
Good morning. First off, this one's for you, son. We're still working it. I'm going to turn the tides a little bit. Would you be me, stand in this location and talk about your son? It was murdered by HPD. If you all have reviewed the case and you see that my son was down on his knees, shot 24 times, 29 times total. The first 5 is what knocked him down. Senseless 24 more bullets on the last 10 seconds of his life. Senseless. No reason. He was already down. So at what point does justice take over and allow police officers, these 4, that's the only ones I'm talking about, in actuality there's 5, to get their jobs back and back pay? If any of us did our job incorrectly, we would be fired. It's senseless to have them back in uniform doing a job that they failed at in the first place. It's hard to stand here as a parent and watch what transpired that day. And we're still here 2 years later trying to battle for justice that should have been taken care of by the grand jury. I'm thankful for the police chiefs that did what they did when they were supposed to. Take care of their officers that failed and hide behind policy and lack of training in a crisis. So 2 years, we're still here. Still searching for justice. And it's been a failure the whole time. Failure to the DA's office. Failure to the grand jury to indict. And a failure to allow these police officers to have their job back. Specifically the 4. And that's all I have to say. Thank you.
Mr. Chávez, en español, ¿nos puede decir cuál es su reacción a esta decisión de reinstalar en su puesto al sargento y a los 3 oficiales?
Disculpa, señor, pero esto duele mucho. Y para decir unas cosas así de qué pasó, mi reacción pasó 2 años. Ahorita estamos buscando justicia para este niño que debe estar aquí con nosotros. Esa es mi reacción.
¿Cree que la decisión original del jefe Acevedo fue la correcta de despedirlo, suspenderlo?
Aunque sea cualquier police chief que es, van a tener la misma reacción. Porque cuando ves el video de ese tiempo, es una injusticia que nos hicieron. Esos 10 segundos al fin no deben de ser así.
¿Y esta vida, cómo le cambió a usted? ¿Qué desea en este caso ahora?
¿Cómo me ha cambiado? Si soy un padre sin un hijo, me ha cambiado todo. ¿Tienes otra pregunta, señor?
Gracias, señor.
Ok, gracias a usted.
Jane.
Good morning, and thank y'all for being here. My name is Jadine Torres. I am the sister of Jose Campos Torres. I'm here today in support of the Chavez family for their loved one, Nicholas Chavez. My family and I are deeply, deeply saddened of the decision that was handed down yesterday. We are deeply saddened. I am deeply disgusted. I am deeply disgusted on the decision that was handed down yesterday. This brings back so many memories. So many memories of 1977. Has anything changed? People, ask yourself, has anything changed? If things would have changed, I would not be standing here today. Once again, the justice system and everyone else in it has failed another family. They have failed Nicholas Chavez. The justice system has failed another family again. And this senseless assassination of him that the world, not just a few of us, the world witnessed. The world witnessed this assassination. And they are let go free. Ask yourselves, people, are we safe? Are we safe? Ask yourself. Thank you.
Ginny, ¿tú crees que han cambiado las cosas desde 1977 a la fecha con la policía de Houston?
No, porque siempre me preguntan eso. Siempre me preguntan eso. Cuando algo pasa, siempre me preguntan eso. Y yo siempre, my answer is, siempre va a ser no. Hasta que yo miro que las familias están ganando justicia. Y no tenemos que estar acá enfrente peleando o en las calles peleando, protesting y todo eso. Es cuando se han cambiado las cosas. Hasta este tiempo, hasta hoy, no se han cambiado las cosas.
Say it in English. Say it in English. Say the question.
Your question is, if I think, your question to me, right? If I think things have changed, I am always asked that. Since 1977, I'm always asked that. My answer is always no. So long as I still keep seeing cases in this manner of my brothers, in the Chavez family's manner, as long as I keep seeing cases in this manner, my answer will always be no. Justice was never served for my brother, and I'm still here today fighting. So many other families, my answer will always be no until I see otherwise, until I see that a family gets justice and without having to take to the streets. Why? Why do we have to take to the streets? Why? Why?
Y mi última pregunta, ¿qué sintió usted cuando se enteró que estos oficiales les iban a devolver su trabajo después de que la comisión decidió que podrían regresar?
Estoy mala de eso. I am sick. My heart is broken. I'm sick. My heart is broken. My heart is crushed. I'm back in 1977. The memories, the mind, seeing my mother up there fighting for her son. I am sick. His question was, what did I feel yesterday when I heard the decision? My answer is that I am sick. My heart is broken. I am crushed. I was forced back into 1977. Although I'd never left it, this is what keeps me fighting. This is what keeps me fighting for other families. I had a call from my mom this morning. She's crushed. She's extremely saddened of the decision. Are we safe? Are we safe? This is a green light for them to do this because they know they will be covered. Thank you.
Let me ask if you please hold your questions. We'll be here all as long as you have them, so I can finish the presentation. Thank you very much. Thank you, Carlito. Isidro?
Thank you, Johnny. Nicholas Chavez was murdered. And we say we have a government, and I believe in it. We do have a government of the people, by the people, for the people, inscribed in our Constitution. But our elected officials are the mayor, the city council, the county judge, commissioner's court, the district attorney, and the state judges. We don't elect those who run that union. We don't select the police chief. So I rest on the rights that are prescribed in our Constitution, which have completely been obliterated in this last decision. And murder has no statute of limitations. And those who committed this murder will be put through the Constitution of the United States, not a local policy, not a local police union. And I'm not going to be as nice as my dear friend Johnny. I'm going to call a spade a spade. The mayor might as well give that title to the president of the police union. City council, 16 of you, might as well give that position to the members of the police union, because they're the ones who are running this city. And I'm here simply as a father and grandfather. And we're being attacked. My household, the safety of my children and grandchildren are being attacked. Not only Hispanics. That applies to every one of us in this community. And if you want to sit idle and watch it as spectators, we can. And that's the community that we're going to live in. But I think the majority of us, I know for a fact, we're Americans, proud Americans, proud of our Constitution. Our Constitution, those that are carrying out the Constitution are failing us, and we need to make a change. And we're going up to the U.S. Attorney. We're going to the main attorney for the entire United States, and that's what Johnny's letter is addressed to, Greater Houston Coalition for Justice. In 1977, same thing happened. There was a state verdict, and it was at that time U.S. Attorney Tony Canales and Lou Locker, Ruben Bonilla. They went up to D.C. and we got a special prosecutor. I just want to put people on notice. This thing is not over. Murder is murder, and murder has consequences. Thank you so much.
¿Puedo repetir en español la última frase, por favor?
Go ahead.
La última frase.
Sí, referente a que este no es el final.
Es que cuando matan a un ser humano, eso tiene sus consecuencias. Y no puedes matar a un ser humano como que si fueras matado a un perro. The decision that was made yesterday to reinstate the killer cops is a travesty of justice. It shows a complete failure of the system to address issues of justice, especially amongst the Hispanic community. The Hispanic community is heartbroken. We're angry, we're outraged that there is no justice for us. Where's the outrage like when George Floyd was murdered? Where is the outrage here, where the killer cops executed Mr. Chavez execution style? They murdered him execution style. And the last police officer called it correctly. He said that they violated policy. There was no reason for them to shoot since that taser was totally spent. There was no danger here. And that's why he fired them. But now there's a total reversal. They're going to get their job back. They're going to get back pay, hundreds of thousands of dollars. And so in a way, they're being, they're being promoted, really. I mean, there's no justice when, when something like that happens. And we're totally outraged. A couple of days ago, the mayor concluded contract negotiations with the police union, and it was not transparent. They held it behind closed doors. Why? To continue the injustice that is continuing, that has been in effect for many, many years. So any expectation of justice is not there. And here the system failed Nicholas Chavez. The DA failed him, and the mayor failed him big time. So we're not happy at all. Thank you. En español. La decisión que emitieron ayer fue una total travestía de justicia, en el que decidieron darle el trabajo para atrás a los policías asesinos que mataron a Nicholas Chavez, como que lo estaban ejecutando. Estaba de rodillas, ya lo habían incapacitado, le habían dado balazos antes. Él ya no era peligro. Es lo que concluyó el ex jefe Acevedo, que no había razón por la cual lo balearan todas esas veces como ejecución. Por eso los despidió. Y ahora que los reintegraron, les dieron sus posiciones para atrás y luego les van a pagar el pago retrasado. Van a ser 100 miles de dólares. Es una travestía total. Y eso indica que no hay justicia para los hispanos. ¿Dónde está el coraje? ¿Dónde está la gente en las calles como cuando mataron a George Floyd? No lo hay para nosotros. Y la cosa, estamos cansados, porque esto va a seguir. El mayor recientemente concluyó negociaciones con la Unión de Policías, donde hicieron negociaciones, pero no estaba abierto al público. O sea que nosotros no sabíamos lo que está incluido en ese contrato. O sea que eso le garantía muchas condiciones a los policías, y eso permite que sigan matando a nuestra gente sin repercusiones, que no hay justicia absoluta. Y la comunidad hispana está bien enojado. También falló la oficina del District Attorney, y así varias oficinas nos están fallando. Y ya estamos cansados, los hispanos están cansados. Gracias.
My name is Stephen Flores, born and raised in Houston. What I want to say is that we're not here to say and condemn all law enforcement. We believe, as a group, that they should be supported, and the majority 90+% of them are not the police officers that have to be watched or disciplined. They actually do their jobs and do it in mind of the people that they have been hired to protect. We're not asking for them to be defunded or none of those things. We need law enforcement, but we also need justice. I've been here for living in Houston now since I was born in 54, and I want to be able to see the day that we can come together and say, there wasn't one more this year. Not that here we go again, there's one more of us that was murdered by someone with a badge. Because it is happening. And to deny that it's not happening, it's like a drunk that refuses to deny that he is a drunk, or people that drive while drinking. So we have to admit, and the police departments and the sheriff's departments and all those departments have to admit that there are some bad apples out there. And they need to shed themselves of those people or get them help or something, because we can't have them out there. Put them in inside offices. Not sure what the answer is. But I want to be here on the day when we can say this isn't happening anymore. Thank you.
¿Habla español, señor?
No.
I'd like to introduce one of our newest members, and we have a list of people who want to join the coalition organization-wise. And I'm going to let her, I think she's a brilliant attorney. I'm going to let her to introduce herself so she can feel at home.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Lema Barazi, and I have been a trial attorney for 16 years. I'm also a civil rights advocate. I'm here on behalf of the Texas Progressive Executive Council, and we stand in unity with everyone here, especially the Chavez family, in demanding accountability. Our society shouldn't be judged by the way that we treat our wealthiest or our most powerful citizens. Rather, society should be judged by the way that we treat our most vulnerable citizens. The tragedy that has occurred here is a failure on several fronts. We have failed Mr. Chavez, we have failed his family, and we have failed ourselves. We have failed Mr. Chavez by failing to accommodate and to provide mental health services to him. We have failed Mr. Chavez by riddling his body with bullets at his most vulnerable time. When he was most in need of help, we denied him that help. And we failed Mr. Chavez yet again by failing to hold those who murdered him accountable. We will never progress as a society. We will never progress to our fullest potential until we treat our most vulnerable citizens the same as we treat our wealthiest and our most powerful. I urge everyone to not rest until we have accountability. Because what happened to Mr. Chavez has happened in the past, and it will certainly continue to happen in the future until these kinds of acts and the people who committed them are held accountable. Thank you.
This conclude our presentation, but we're open for questions. There's outrage in the community. Unfortunately, many of the people that are outraged don't have the luxury to come before cameras and to speak out in a manner that has a resounding rejection to what happened yesterday. I'm not going to repeat what some of the members of the coalition have felt for the longest, but it's about time that elected officials, irregardless of who, start listening, because the disservice that these communities are suffering, we cannot wait anymore for justice. I am proud that we were able to change some of the aspects of the grand jury, but there's still a lot of work to be done. Queremos darle las gracias a los medios de comunicación y queremos decir que hay mucha rabia en la comunidad, todas las comunidades, y que ya basta y que ya es tiempo que los oficiales que sean elegidos hagan caso a los problemas de la gente, y si no, el público que dice yo no voto porque no cambian las cosas, necesitan que oír el mensaje. El voto es lo que cuenta. I say again, for those people that don't vote, it does make a difference. You, the voters, and it's government by the people, for the people. The elections for mayors are coming, and you can rest assured these issues are on the table. We cannot have a police union or any other dictate to the community what our rights are and that we should be intimidated if we speak up. That's what's happening in Ukraine and in Russia. This is America, and we're all entitled to our rights. If you have any questions, we're open. Ask anyone that just called a name or whatever, and we'd be glad to answer. Huh?
Mr. Chavez.
Go ahead, sir.
Can you tell me, what do you think changed from the time that initially this occurred, when the mayor and the police chief said they couldn't condone it, that this is no way this is acceptable?
So you're asking me a question about what changed between
What do you think changed?
between then and now,
Yes.
and why they got their jobs back?
Yes.
You know, in all honesty, we have no idea. We found out yesterday that there was a forum in the morning at 8 o'clock in the morning, and the forum was at 8:30 to announce that they would be receiving their jobs back. At no time were we ever brought in to even have a say or a presence of what transpired. So we didn't find out until you guys found out yesterday as well. So what changed in between that time frame? I have no idea. I have no idea where the failure took place, where the injustice took place. Because the fact of the matter is, my son is not here.
Do you feel like somebody owes you an explanation?
Excuse me. You know, an explanation is something that we all look for as a finality, right? This will never be final. It'll be an ongoing forever. As you can see, from 1977, we're still here looking for answers. But until, like you said, the accountability it takes place, it may change.
Will you cut off part of this?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely. I mean, to know at 10:30 in the morning after the forum took place yesterday, it's an outrage. To not even be visible or to know what is transpiring, you know, in this case, I mean, it just, I mean, it rocked me to my core. I mean, you know, I'm a father of 4 sons. You know, I have family I have to answer for. And to not know what transpired with those 4 officers is an outrage for me. It brings back every memory that I have of the injustice that happened on that day in April of 2020. I mean, we're talking about a video that's 45 minutes long on a body cam, has no weapon other than a rebar, down on his knees reaching for a taser that's spent. When he grabs the taser, they shoot 24 times because they feared for their life. I'm sorry. You feared for your life from a man that's on his knees.
¿Podría decir eso en español, señor Chavez?
Está un poquito difícil, pero la injusticia que me hicieron a mi hijo y platicando de los body cam videos, 45 minutos de body cam videos sin una pistola, sin nada de molestar a la policía, y le echaron 25 balazos al fin, o 24, perdóname. Es una injusticia que de un padre nunca se puede finalizar todo esto. Es mi
¿Qué van a hacer ahora? ¿Qué es lo que sigue para ustedes?
buscando la justicia para mi hijo que está muerto. Es lo único que podemos hacer. Y recordar y aprender de esto que pasó y cómo a cambiar todo esto. A la policía, a la gente, es lo único que podemos hacer. Anything else?
What do you want to see happen next?
You know, and I'll be frank with you, I think that there has to be more to this travesty, you know, as a parent, and looking forward to all of you that may have children and bringing them up. Where do we go from here? You know, how do things change? How do we change police officers' mind at the last 10 seconds that, am I going to shoot or am I not going to shoot? You know, those things need to change. There's a lot more going on in America nowadays, and we see it every day on the news, what happened the day previous. When is it going to stop? When is it going to change? Gun violence is horrible, but when it takes effect from the police officer's standpoint, in this specific case, that they killed a child, a man, a father, a son, without any regard. 2 years later, they get their job back. Where do we go from here? You know, the only place we can go is to seek justice. You know, that's the only place we can go. You know, as a father, I stand before you and I hurt every day. I lost a child that day. And it's my job, and I said that when I started this, to him, to speak for him. Until I die. Still my child.
Mr. Chavez, was this something that the family feared would happen after the officers were no bill and not charged in September?
You know, that brings up a good point. You know, when it went to no bill, and all of that is very secluded. You know, when you get to the grand jury aspect, there's basically no information that is dealt out. And so once it came back no bill, we're just, you know, trying to understand, how does that happen? And then here we go from September to now, and then again it's a blank area in between, and then figure out that, okay, let's give them their job back. Where does that happen? I mean, it's very secluded. It's very misunderstood because there's no process that informs the family of what the proceedings are coming up. Not the police, not the police union, not the DA. Just doesn't happen. The lack of communication is what's hurting us all. So when you don't have that type of insight and the answers come up, of course you're astonished at some of the answers, and you just stand beside yourself and go, what the hell is happening? You know? So that happened yesterday, of course. You know, blindsided is probably the proper terminology, and that's why we're all here, because it's a continual battle of being blindsided when it comes to these, you know, what's going on. So I just wish we had a little more traction and involvement to understand these cases and understand how things happen, when things should happen, and why. Where did the policy fail? Where did the regulations fail? Where did their training fail? You know, because it cost my son his life. And now you want to turn the tide and put him back out there so it can possibly happen again? I'll speak for myself. When anybody fails in their job and you get fired, you probably deserved it. You probably deserved it because you didn't do your job correctly. Correct? That's what the terminology of fired is. You didn't do your job correctly. 2 years later, here we are. Let them go back out there and do it again. Makes no sense to me as a parent that lost a child. So, any other questions?
Let me add one thing.
Go ahead, John.
Yo, that's a very good question. The union contract, the civil service regulations, all the way from the state, those are things that we'll be visiting in the legislation. I can tell you, there was a 14-year-old boy killed, and because of the guidelines and the rules of the game, he walked. The police officer walked. Similar case. So the community needs to demand change. That's when people are running for office. They should demand this starting today. And this is what we've been working on. Now, the current chief had to work with what he had. The former chief was practically run out of town because he was trying to do what is right. But you know what? It's we the people. We will change that. Any more questions to any other? You're more than welcome.
Thank you.
Good question. It's not enough that officers are fired. There is that policy that you fire an officer, he still gets to walk and go to another department. Because that is the probability of what most officers are. They're fired from this department, they'll just go to another town because, granted, you still get to carry your police license. Is that coming up in y'all's request for legislation change as well?
Yes. Let me give you a good example. There was another Luis Torres case in Baytown before the George Floyd case, where this man was ill because of high blood pressure. And when he was apprehended, there were 6 officers on him, and one had his knee on his throat. They walked. One of those same officers went to work for the Harris County Sheriff's Department. He's the one that slapped a kid recently. And so that is, and I can give you several stories similar to that. They've gone from here to smaller towns and committed not 1, but sometimes 2 deaths. So yes, that is another thing, because we have, in other words, we don't go lobbying, we advocate. and we advocate for those changes that are needed. But I'm going to tell you, the priority should be the union contract and changes to the Civil Service Commission.
Can I answer that, John?
Yes.
Just to add to your to that question, is the licensing of police is handled under an agency. That agency, that commission, the members are appointed by the governor, and it is there where our focus is from a legal standpoint. What can we change to make sure that when something like this happens, that information gets to those people, and they can no longer go from place to place. In this case, it was even worse. They brought it back to our own community and put it and gave them back to us.
Any more questions? Feel free to ask. We're here.
When the previous chief, did he speak to you or any of you hear about this case after he fired those officers and explained to you personally what his decision-making process was in that?
Go ahead, Augie. No, come on.
No, to answer your question, he got a number of us, community activists, community leaders, whatever you call us, and explained the situation, why he terminated those officers. And he said that because Nicholas Chavez was no threat to them at that point. He was incapacitated, he was on his knees, he couldn't get up. The taser that was lying in front of him was totally spent. That's why the officer that fired those taser shots threw it away, because so it wouldn't be on the way. It was totally spent, so it presented no danger. In addition to that, the officers were like 20 feet away. The taser couldn't reach him, so he said they acted improperly. They didn't have to kill Nicholas Chavez. And then he went over different options that they had, but they didn't have to kill him. And they violated policy, and he terminated them. As a result, now they want to retrain these officers. And if they were doing policy, why is there a need to retrain them? Why? Because they were not following policy. And that's why Chief Acevedo fired them. But the union brought him back. And this is continuing because the mayor held closed-door discussions with the union, and we have that again. So watch out. You know, whenever you call the police or your loved one that's having a mental health issue, better think twice, because who knows, you know? Thanks.
Anything else? I want to thank I want to thank the media and police. I know that you only cover the news conference. Tell the station managers and the news directors to please listen to the pleas of the victims. They need justice. We need to change the system. The media is a very powerful tool. I know that they attack you daily because you tell the truth. So let us collectively change the injustices that are happening around Houston and the Harris County and the surrounding areas. We're not going to go away. We're here to stay. And what's unique, the Victims' Rights Committee have brought some real stories to the legislation and to the public. And very proud of the Victims' Rights Committee and the members of the coalition for being so brave and speaking out. Thank you for attending this news conference. We appreciate it very much. Thank you.